A.W. Tozier wisely said one time, "It is doubtful whether God can bless a man greatly until he has hurt him deeply." So the question I want to ask you is, would a loving God purposely wound us through trials? A lot of people tend to think that when we think of God being a God of love, that means that God will never do us any harm, right? That's kind of the mindset, that anything bad, anything negative, man, that can't be from God. That's got to be from the devil or whatever. But love, by definition, really means to be willing to do short-term harm for a redemptive purpose. All right, a willingness to do short-term harm in order to have a redemptive purpose to it. And so, it's like a physician. If you happen to have an accident like Mallory Waldron did recently, where you break your arm in several places, maybe it's even so bad where it's displaced, a physician will often re-break the arm in order to reset it and in order for proper healing to take place. So the doctor might have to do something that's very painful, might even to another person, a stranger might think, oh, that's cruel. But yet that's the most loving thing that a doctor can do, is re-break it in order for it to heal properly. So I think about a woman that I had read about who her husband had died. And she wrote these beautiful words that I want you to just listen to carefully as it relates to the thought of great pain coming, but yet through that pain, it has a redemptive purpose to it. She writes these words. She says, "One thing that I've become convinced of is that God has different definitions for words than I do. For example, He does work all things for eternal good and His eternal glory. But His definition of good is different than mine. My good would never include cancer and young widowhood. My good would include healing and dying together in our sleep when we are in our 90s. But cancer was good because of what God did that He couldn't do any other way. Cancer was, in effect, necessary to make my husband and me look more like Jesus. So in love, God allowed what was best for us in light of eternity. We cannot see the end God has in mind. If we could, we would likely see that the hardships God allows prevent even more debilitating hardships, the byproducts of the diminished character that results from a life of ease." Did you catch that ending? A diminished character that results from a life of ease. I don't know about you, but I'm probably just as guilty as you are of loving ease and comfort, pleasure and all. And but yet we have to be honest with ourselves. Man, with ease and comfort often comes a diminished character. And so as we think about how God uses trials, pain, suffering, hurt in our lives, it's for our good. It has a redemptive purpose to it. It'd be like a little child who somehow swallows some poison, and a parent runs to that child. They see and they realize what's happened. They call poison control. Poison control says, hey, whatever you do, don't let him fall asleep. Get him to the hospital fast, but do not let him fall asleep. But dad puts the child in the car, racing to the hospital, but yet the child is just struggling to stay awake. His head's bobbing, and what's a dad going to do? He's going to be like patting him on the face. He's going to be shaking him. He's going to be doing everything he can to keep that child awake. Now, that child, what's that child thinking? That child doesn't understand what the dad is doing in that moment, or the mom, and is going to think, man, what you're doing is very unloving. This is not nice. Let me just go to sleep. A child isn't going to understand that the most loving thing that parent can do is try to do everything they can to keep that child awake, even though the child doesn't understand. I think of Lamentations chapter 3, verse 32. It says, though he brings me grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love. And God's unfailing love is great. It is worthy of being cherished, appreciated, not resisted. So as you're going through this whole season of change and unusual circumstances, even with that going on, life still comes at us hard, doesn't it? There's still a lot of pain, still a lot of suffering outside of the pandemic. But whatever it is that you're going through, don't resist God in it. Don't blame Him. Don't shake your fist at Him, but rather rest in His unfailing love. Know that whatever He brings across your path, it is for your good. It is to shape you, to conform you into the image of His Son. So as you press on from this day forward, just remind yourself of those truths. And that will, as you do that, as you preach the gospel to yourself, you will have less stress, you will be less irritable, you will embrace more what God is doing in your life, as hard and as difficult as it might be, and you will glorify Him more through that. So, church family, pray that you're just growing in grace and godliness as you press on. And so let us pray for one another as we continue this journey in this life together. God bless you. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend.